Coming up on Theater Talk. Has anybody gone severely off track, not naming names while you're performing this, Act Two?
Well, I think we should name names. That would be required.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation.
Spotlight. Just the tip line.
You think he's got something?
From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
So one of Broadway's favorite stars, Brian Darcy James, is now not only starring in Something Rotten, the musical that we all loved from last season, and it still is running.
Indeed.
But he is now a featured player in the Academy Award-nominated film Spotlight, and he just won a SAG Award. So fresh off of the SAG Awards, welcome Brian Darcy James.
Thank you,
My gosh, a movie star is
Michael.
gracing our presence.
Yes, that's what's happening. That is what's happening.
It's only been, by my count, 12 Broadway shows before you got the break in the movies there, Brian.
What do they say? It's just the overnight sensation situation has taken a little more than a night.
But I went to Spotlight opening weekend, and there you were, Broadway's own Brian Darcy James, and I was so excited that there you were in this important featured role. How'd you get that?
The good old-fashioned way. I went in and I auditioned for Tom McCarthy, the director of the film and also the co-writer of the film, and I sat in my little metal chair in a small room with a video camera and did 3 little scenes and walked out thinking, well, that's great, I got to meet Tom McCarthy. I was a huge fan of his films. And very surprisingly, when you're in these situations, you kind of have a sense of what's coming. You can hear that maybe you have a callback or you get good feedback from the director, the casting director. Radio silence after this, so I just kind of put it out of my head. And about 2 weeks later, I got the role. So it went from 0 to 60, and the rehearsals were starting the next day. So it was a very fast, quite a remarkable thing. I always say to Tom, you've changed my life, because he was the one who really went to bat for me and said, I want this guy to be a part of this incredible quartet with the likes of Michael Keaton, Mark Ruffalo, and Rachel McAdams, which is an extraordinary thing for someone like me to do.
Were you in a show at that point?
At that point, I was doing the workshop or the lab of Something Rotten. So I actually left a 4-week process. I was gone for about a week shooting in Boston. So I had to do a little more homework.
So did they just go forward without you?
Well, I was able to come back and finish the presentation and actually perform in it. But I had a little bit of a chunk where I was learning my lines for Something Rotten in Boston while I was shooting.
And we should say that Spotlight is about the team of reporters and editors that uncovered the Catholic Church pedophilia scandal up in Boston, for which I believe the team won the Pulitzer. It's a very, very good script. So I'm curious, when you got the sides, I guess they call them,
yes,
to read, you really had no sense of what the whole script was, or did they give you the whole thing?
When
you read that script, you think, boy, this is going to be a good one?
Well, I did read the script. Sometimes you don't get the script. In this case, I had read it. I knew from reading it that it was a very detailed, meticulous account of what the Globe did in uncovering this story. And I was able to assess that it wasn't necessarily about the result of their reporting, more so it was about the machinations of a newsroom and the politics of a newsroom and all the echelons and the hierarchy of how decisions get made, which is a huge education for me. So that was interesting to me. Did I know that it was going to be Academy Award nominated 6 times over? No. I'm not typically in that boat. And so I knew that it was really interesting. And again, I knew Tom McCarthy's work, and I knew that it was he has a great sense of character and character study and taking kind of small scope and finding the kind of the moral quandaries that individuals find themselves in, and so the complexities of that.
You're playing a real person, right?
Yes, indeed.
They're based on real people.
Did you meet that man?
I did. I play Matt Carroll,
yes,
who is alive and well and is an incredible reporter. He works for MIT right now for their media lab. And he was the data journalist of the four. So he is the self-described geek of the group who is very, very in tune with the stories and how compiling numbers and data can actually tell a larger story.
And did he really live around the corner from a pedophile priest?
That is true. There's a scene in the movie that
Yes.
depicts what they call these halfway houses, or these places where the parishes would shuffle priests in order to be fixed or to be treated, treatment houses. And in their very meticulous and the really hard, unsexy work of going through all the directories and figuring out where these priests were, he realized that there was one right around his corner. It's a great moment in the film because it's a nice coming together of the personal and the professional.
Right.
This reporter who's duty bound to kind of keep the lid on the story. But now that story is literally in his backyard and
It has a human face on it.
But you're not
Yes.
supposed to tell, and yet you know across the street from you.
Now, this movie has been compared to the other great movie about journalism, All the President's Men.
Yes.
Did you go back and take a look at that movie?
I did. It was after I was done shooting the film. I was actually going out for the LA premiere and I was watching it I saw it on the plane, and I thought, oh, this would be interesting to see now. I had seen it a number of times as a kid. I'm a bit of a geek, so in high school it was one of my favorite films. My friend Gavin McDonald and I would watch All the President's Men all the time. We would recreate scenes. We're very dull lives we had, but so to be in this film that is likened to that was interesting. But what I was really interested in watching the film again is that I didn't realize that there were so many New York theater actors that were in that cast.
Absolutely. Jason Robards.
Well, Jason Robards, of course, but John McMartin plays one of the editors. F. Murray Abraham, I was surprised to find out he is one of the guys that goes in the very first scene. So I thought, oh, this is an interesting thing. I'm going to believe that Tom McCarthy was kind of taking that page from that book and honoring the theater community by putting me in there. Although that's not even true because, Ruffalo and John Slattery.
Yeah, they're all theater guys.
They're all theater guys.
But you were working on the ground in the theater when you were cast, and you had also recently done this little show off Broadway called Hamilton.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
Which you left.
Right.
Now, you played King George III. You're so wonderful.
Brilliantly, he was great at it.
Did you
Thank
ever
you.
question that decision to leave Hamilton?
I didn't question it, although once I made the decision, I knew that this was going to be a very interesting and difficult thing to have play out. The decision was made prepackaged in a way because when we did the 4-week workshop of Something Rotten, we were going to go out of town.
Right.
And I wasn't interested in going out of town. I was committed to doing the off-Broadway production of Hamilton to kind of see where that went.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, the out of town for Something Rotten got pushed way up. And so I had to make a decision about, do I want to be the lead in this new Broadway show that I absolutely loved? And if so, that would mean I would have to leave Hamilton. And
Well, you were great, but not the lead.
right, it's a totally different ball of wax. Arguments on both sides to be made. It's really a no-lose situation. The long story short was that I told Lynn and Tommy Kail, the director, and Oscar Eustis and Jeffrey Seller, I said, look, I've got to make this decision. I'm going to choose to do this. If I can be a part of this for any time that is allowed, I would love to, but if I can't, I understand, kind of just hoping to God that they would say, yeah, you can come in and join us. And for a couple of days, they kind of figured out what was going to be best for them. And thankfully, I say this all the time, to Lynn and to Oscar and to everyone involved, they said, yeah, you can come be a part of this first page of this book that will last forever.
And they knew that then.
They did, and they allowed me to be a part of it.
But a bird in hand. I mean, you had a real Broadway show coming in, and you had an off-Broadway show that had the prospects, perhaps, of being a Broadway show.
Exactly.
And those are decisions you have to make as a working actor.
It's true. You're right. I didn't have the calculus, played out in front of me. I had a pretty good idea that the Hamilton was going to be a pretty great show. To the degree that it's become and will become, I didn't understand the full dimension of that. But it would have been more difficult had I not been able to do Hamilton at all. That would have been the hardest thing to kind of look back and say. So I'm really lucky that I got my cake and I got to eat it too.
Well, here's the thing though, Brian, Hamilton's going to be around for quite a while, so it's entirely possible.
It is.
You may be able to dip back in and play the king.
It's very true.
Or you can take over for Lin-Manuel. So now,
I don't know about that.
are you going to the Academy Awards?
I am going to be out there because the day before the Academy Awards spotlight, the ensemble has won the Robert Altman Ensemble Award for the Independent Spirit Awards. The next day are the Oscars. I am still waiting to find out if I'm going to get my golden ticket to go. There's a lot of people in the studio and who are, it's a lottery system for the Academy Awards. So if you get a lot of nominations, you get more tickets.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that I can go.
But you're a SAG Award winner.
This is true.
They should certainly let
Will you please call them and remind them?
Yeah,
that?
So the spotlight, they're going to put it in a hat, and then you go and pick in the hope that you get. It's like the Hamilton lottery. That
yes,
you get,
exactly.
You get to go to the Oscars.
Maybe so. Maybe I should sing a song on a curbside.
But you're having this Hollywood experience. I had to talk to your LA publicist to book you for
lots
this
and
show.
lots of people to get through to get to me.
Layers.
Okay.
You continue to star in Something Rotten. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about what a wonderful and fun show that is.
Thank you. Yes.
Now, what is your greatest pleasure in doing that?
The people is the first thing that comes to mind. This cast is extraordinary. I love them all so much. These are incredibly talented people that I've come up with. It's such a fun, joyous, silly romp of a musical. The relationship that we have with the audience and that kind of communication is one that I've never really experienced, short of being in a Neil Simon play where the laughter is just like whales of laughter.
Yes.
Gales is what I meant to say, and waves. But I think whales of laughter might be a new coined term. But anyway, that feeling of knowing that the people that you're performing for are having a fantastic time is really a remarkable
You really have,
thing.
though, I'm looking at your credits here, you've navigated the whole terrain of musicals from comic, boisterous, Something Rotten to things like Next to Normal and Floyd Collins and The Wild Party. I mean, not a lot of laughs in those musicals. Those are the super serious musicals that you've done, too.
It's true. And that is another reason why this was so appealing for me. It is such a unadulterated comedy. It's fun, silly stuff, and I love that stuff. My first job was doing songs and sketches from the Gaslight area, vaudeville sketches in Frankenmuth, Michigan. That was what I cut my teeth on, Right. So I'm a sucker for a pratfall or a hoary joke. It's something that I love, and I think this show does it. It's a very, very clever show, and the jokes are just nonstop. And there are some really great characters as well. But you're right. I've been lucky to be able to do musicals that don't rely on that, are more, psychologically complex and have characters that are going through much more difficult things, like
Shrek.
like Shrek. Yes. Yes. He was having a difficult time in the swamp.
All right, Brian Darcy James, terrific in the new movie Spotlight, which just won SAG Award. He won the SAG Award. And you can see him on Broadway now in Something Rotten, and we're hoping you win the lottery so you can go to the Oscars.
Yeah, we're going to look for it, ABC. Get him in there.
Yeah, right, exactly. Thank you, Brian.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I like it up here. He's on top. I'm enjoying the view. Wow, 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 wow. Yeah, this one's gonna be on top.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please take your seats? The performance is about to begin.
Now, Susan, one of the very first Broadway shows I ever saw was the brilliant comedy Noises Off with Dorothy Loudon and Victor Garber and Deborah Rush. I loved it as a kid, and I am pleased to say that there is a revival that is as good as the original production at the Roundabout Theatre Company. We are delighted tonight to be joined by the cast of the new and very funny production of Noises Off. Tracee Chimo, welcome to Theatre Talk.
Thank you.
Campbell Scott, as the rather supercilious director of this fiasco play in Noises Off. Welcome to Theatre Talk.
Thank you.
And David Furr, as the kind of obnoxious leading man, I would say. But great mustache. Great mustache.
Thank you. Does most of my work for me.
All right, so this is a farce, as everyone knows, Noises Off. What is the key, Tracee, to doing a farce?
Yeah, Tracee.
Yeah, that's
I thought I'd hurl that one at you.
Love that.
Little
I love
dramaturgical discussion to start off this conversation about Noises Off.
You know, I've never done a farce before. This is
Really?
the first time that I'd ever done anything like this. I'm used to sitting at the table for about a week talking about character and story and, what the vision is generally for the play. And we were up on our feet, gosh, I think later that first day. If not, then we were definitely on our feet the next day. We didn't do any table work. It was about it was about staging it immediately to just get it down and do it by the numbers, because Michael Frayn has written everything out so beautifully is in stage directions. So there's dialogue on one side of the paper, and then there's his stage directions on the other. And if you don't follow what he's carefully written, it's funny how it doesn't work. Yeah. So it was a bit like going back to my dancer brain, which I haven't been to in a long time. And it felt like I was doing choreography again.
And your director is Jeremy Herrin, right?
Jeremy Herrin.
Yeah. Jeremy Herrin, who I think is so interesting that he directed Wolf Hall. And this is kind of, in an interesting way, another pageant of moving people around, like Wolf Hall.
I think, yeah, when you talk to Jeremy, I think it was the first farce he had ever done as well. Yeah. So although he probably wouldn't show it, knowing Jeremy, you know, I think he was nervous about it too, and very, very interested to see how it was going to go.
Yeah. But he knows how to keep actors in motion.
Without a doubt. And he actually, you know, he did two things. He tried to do two things right away. He blocked things right away, which none of us are usually that used to.
Yes.
You know, up on your feet right away doing stuff and kind of getting results right away, stuff like that.
Yeah.
At the same time, he kept, you know, he would occasionally every few days say, now let's remember we're real people and remember what that is and, you know, talk about that.
What is that?
I feel like, I don't know, I mean, I feel like there's always for any play, I think, it's certainly comedy, you know, there's always a bit of like, okay, what's it going to sound and look like? But also, what does it feel like? You know, can we kind of smash them together and hopefully that'll be true, whatever truth is for this, you know?
Well, but isn't it something to it, David, that if you play it to be funny, it won't be funny?
For me, it's a constant thing with each performance to kind of remember to, because there are so many laughs, to not fall into just doing the shape of the role built around laughs.
Right, moving from laugh
to laugh. You know, in the opening scenes, to remember to be like surprised that this is not the tech rehearsal, it's the dress rehearsal, and to push back against that, and as opposed to just kind of go, oh, my next laugh is here, my next laugh is here. But the laughs are so much fun, you have to kind of constantly be on yourself to remember what the characters are doing.
And the funniest things are, because you're the play within the play, where nothing goes as it's supposed to for the actors, and that's where we get, as Jesse Green, the critic last week, said, it's maybe the funniest play ever written.
Yeah.
From that perspective. But it has worked out so carefully.
Now, any mishaps, though? I mean, it's quite physical. Are there any moments where you're on there where you think, uh-oh, if this goes wrong tonight, that axe is going to land in my head?
Well, last night we had one of the door handles in Act 1 fall off.
It came off in my hand.
Yeah. And, you know,
the audience would roar with laughter.
Of course, because that's
and things aren't supposed to go that wrong for them just yet. But in our Act 1, the door handle comes off, and, you know, we as actors playing actors doing a farce, we're like, well, you can't really do a farce with doors that don't have handles.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that stuff like that happens in Act 3 by design, but not in Act 1. So it ended up working out okay.
I picked it up and I put it back on the knob as I was talking to you.
Yeah.
And then came backstage, and the crew was like, "What happened? What happened?" Because that's a nightmare.
But that's part of the joke. It's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
In Noises Off.
Yeah.
Act 2 is like a kind of Marx Brothers ballet. You are coordinating things so carefully. How long did it take to work that out?
Well, we should only say that's because Act 1 you see them rehearsing the play, and then Act 2 you go behind the scenes while they're performing the play. And you realize there's as much choreography backstage of a Broadway show as there is on stage.
Yeah.
And of course, this is not a Broadway show. This is supposed to be a tacky little
theater traveling.
But this is memorizing physicality. Right?
Yes.
It's very much like a machine, Act 2, because we're all parts in this machine. And I would say of all the acts, it's the one where we get to play the least now that we've said it. Because in Act 1 and Act 3, you can kind of play the audience, you can kind of ride the laughs, you can play with each other. There's a little room for continuing to be spontaneous and be, you know, and have fun. Act 2, you've got to kind of stay on your track and keep going, because if you jump out of your little place in the machine, then somebody's not going to catch an axe, you know.
Yeah, it's a Rube Goldberg.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a Rube Goldberg
machine. Screw up the next thing.
Has anybody
catch the axe? Oops.
Has anybody gone severely off track, not naming names while you're performing this Act 2?
Well, I think we should name names. That would be required. Yeah, I think everybody has. Not crazy off track. And, you know, you hear stories, of course. about other productions and stuff. And even Jeremy Herron, I remember in rehearsal, I can't remember who it was, but someone said to me, they spoke to someone who had done one of the earlier productions, maybe the Victor Garber production. They spoke to someone after, or when we finally were in previews, and they had said, I wouldn't tell you then when you called me before rehearsals, but now I'll tell you, yeah, that second act is like the most impossible. You know, they had been calling them and saying, oh, it's fine, it'll work out, you know, but they wouldn't tell them before, because it's just, you start to lose your mind a little bit.
Yeah, you do.
Because A, it's in the rehearsal room, so you're not funny, nobody's laughing, you don't know what's funny, you don't know what works, you don't know. So you're just going by Michael Frayn, who's a genius, you know that. He's a scientist, really, in some way.
Yes, he's very
like a
scientific.
mathematician, but there's also room for everything everyone's creating, too, and and you don't know if that's playing or not.
You have to have an immense amount of faith in rehearsal for this play, especially Act Two, that you
God.
know that it's worked before, you know people love this play, you know it has a history of being fantastic, but when you are getting down to the nuts and bolts and the comic mathematics and the movement mathematics of Act Two, and like you say, nobody's laughing in the rehearsal room, you just have to have faith that A, it will work out, and B, it will be funny.
I mean, it's almost like analyzing a joke. If you analyze the joke, you kill it. But you've got to map this.
You have to map it out.
Beat by beat.
It's like being an athlete. You know, you got to rehearse, and then forget. And the forgetting is the hard part.
Right.
You know, the getting out of your brain is the hard part.
Yeah.
Especially since you've been in there for 4 weeks saying, I got to be there, I got to be here, I got to say this at the right time, or everybody else is screwed up.
Let me ask you then. So you're 4 weeks with no laughs. What is that first performance like when you go in front of an audience and you start to get the laughs?
It was kind of amazing, and I think we stepped on quite a few.
We totally
We
did.
had no idea where they
Where
were,
they'd be.
where they would land, and it took a good week, I think, of previews for us to really kind of gauge. Okay, so we know that this is funny, like they're gonna laugh right here, and we're gonna have to hold a bit, and then move on to the next thing, you know. And it was interesting to kind of gauge that in previews. And
but it was a relief when the laughter was there, and it was very much like, you know,
time.
being
Thank
extremely
God.
thirsty and getting some water.
yes, yeah.
David, speaking of athletics, at one point in the play, you do a somersault, fall over the, not to give anything away, but you do a somersault, crash through the banister, and fall full flight on the floor. How long did it take you to get that together?
Well,
this is what you went the Yale School of Drama for.
well, first of all, I want to acknowledge Lorenzo Pizzoni, who came on as our stunt comedy coordinator, and kind of wasn't just for stunts. It was all the physical aspects of the show, which is a great deal. And he designed this fall that I execute.
But surely you had to audition with something to tell them you could do that, right?
Well, this was just an offer for me.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I mean, I had done Importance of Being Earnest for them. I'm not sure why exactly they thought, you know. I'm glad, because I used to do physical comedy all the time.
Okay, well, they like the cut of your jib. So
they like the cut of my jib.
Yeah.
Cut of your jib? I mean, this is... And stay tuned for Noel Coward. He's next on Theater Talk, 1935. Cut of your jib.
You continue with your description of how Lorenzo got you to fall through the banister.
Well, he designed it for me in a way that could be, you know, safe, because I have to do it 8 times a week.
Exactly.
Surprising and funny. And I think maybe, I don't know where the other part of the idea, where there's some banisters involved, but Jeremy may have said, I want part of the set destroyed. And, but anyway,
Yes, you destroy it every time.
So I can't take any credit for the design of the fall. But from pretty early on, Lorenzo started working with me on the floor and some mats in terms of rolling backwards and things like that. And then we had a rehearsal set, because you kind of have to have a rehearsal set to rehearse this play. God help you if you don't. But, you know, so we could do the first part of the fall on the rehearsal set, but we couldn't even do the whole second part of the fall there's mechanisms and things like that have to work, because we didn't have anything that, you know, any breakaway kind of stuff. So it was rather late in the process when we added the most dramatic parts of the fall.
But have you ever been really hurt?
Tell the truth.
There was once, but it wasn't because of the falling itself. It was because I made contact with a part of the set in the fall, you know, controlled part of the fall. It was a pointy part of the set.
And where did you make contact with that?
There were a couple of bruised ribs in there for a little while.
But
it was not like during actual falling. It wasn't kind of as you'd think it would be. But
we got to wrap it up. But are you all losing weight doing this show? Is it keeping you in physical?
Yes, wonderful workout.
Yes. I have comedy bruises.
Yeah.
That's
what you call
that's
them?
what I learned that they're
bruises.
called. Comedy
I never did
bruises.
that. Comedy bruises from.
I crashed into the set. I tripped over your legs. I tripped over Campbell's legs and went flying headfirst into the set in Act 2. And
Yeah, I was worried about that.
yeah, that was good.
Not for
It
too
worked. I got a huge laugh.
I was going to say, the more intense
laugh.
your pain, the bigger
Yeah.
the laugh for
Yeah.
us.
Had a big laugh.
In the
Although there's always a weird thing where you don't want the audience to be concerned. You want it to be real enough for our actor,
Right.
the people we're playing. But there's always a, if the audience is actually concerned for, Campbell Scott, or the actor himself, the real actor, then it can take him out a little bit. So it's a little.
Well, they're not going to laugh because they're worried.
Yeah, so it's
I'm
a little
like worried
tricky
about
to
you.
walk that line that, especially the violence in Noises Off being
Yeah.
different than the violence in the play that we're performing,
Right.
Nothing On.
Yeah.
So there's two different levels of realistic violence, but then at the same time, you don't want the audience to actually be concerned about you.
Someone being chopped up with an axe.
All right, great revival of Noises Off at the American Airlines.
Yes.
Roundabout Theatre Company. It stars Tracee Chimo, Campbell Scott, David Furr, don't
Andrea
miss it.
Martin and a whole bunch of
Whole
great
bunch
people.
of
a whole bunch.
amazing
And you
people.
will be in pain from laughing so hard. And how's that for a cheesy out?
That was lovely.
That was perfect.
Very good, Chief.
Perfect. Wonderful.
Okay, it took 2 days to get the setup, so we shan't have time for a dress rehearsal. Don't worry. Think of the first night as a dress rehearsal. If we could just get through the play tonight once for doors and sardines, that's what it's all about. Doors and sardines. Getting on, getting off, getting the sardines on, getting the sardines off. That's farce. That's the theatre. That's life.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theatre Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theatre Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the CORY and Bob Donnelly Charitable Fund, the NOEL Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy STRELSIN Foundation, and the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theatre Talk. Thank you,